Okay. Uh, I stopped off talking about work. Uh, when my kids were in school, I was always working. I worked most of the time second and third shift jobs. Uh, lived in a place that used to be called the textile center of the world, and that was because we had what were called mills, which made fabric, different kinds of fabric. Uh, and the first part, not the first part, I guess in my 20s, I uh, I went through a lot of. I worked at the hospital for a while, and I went to be certified as a CNA, but nobody ever bothered to find out that I was underage. So when I got my certificate, I couldn't work on the floor because I wasn't 18. I wasn't old enough. So a friend of mine, mother, worked in the kitchen at the hospital, and she put in a good word for me because that's what you could do back in the day, uh, to let me work in the kitchen where they didn't have the same age restriction. And my job was to make liquid feedings for people who had to be fed through tubes. So I would make up the formulas for them and then drop them off on the floors where they needed to be at the nurse's station. And that was my job. Well, I had a compassion for folk, and it was hard for me because I was not allowed. If somebody even asked me to give them a glass of water, I was not allowed to do that. I could tell somebody who may or may not, take care of that. And that depressed me greatly. And I was like, this is not for me. So, in a few years after that, I had family who worked in the textile mill. My mother, for one, and I had a cousin who also worked. And back in the day, they did not allow people who looked like me to be able to have the kind of job that I wound up with. I became a weaver because they made, beside the guys who worked on the machines, which were called loom fixers or fixers. In my case, it was loom fixer because I was in the weave room. We were the second highest paid in the whole building beside, the management. And that was because uh, we had a set salary. Plus, if you went over whatever they had set for production, you got paid extra for that. And normally, I did. I made good money. I did. I made good money. But this is the thing. During that time, while I was working at nights and my kids were sleeping, they would either staying with my mom or they would be with one of my cousins. Because back then, we didn't pay for uh, child care. Somebody in the family took care of the kids. We took turns doing that. And most of the time it was the generation before me, like my mom and her first cousin, who wound up taking care of the kids. But I say that to say this, I missed out on a lot working, trying to make sure that we had everything we needed. And one day I went to work, I came home, and I had men. They were no longer boys, teenagers. These were big fellas. So that's why I say I don't know how it was stressful for me to a degree, because during that time things were happening, and I can't imagine what it's like now to try to hold down a job and try to make sure your kids get back and forth to all these events and all this extracurricular activity and whatever else is on the outside. And you gotta make sure you got the money for the daycare for the smaller kids, which is damn outrageous. Whew. And for the ones who are in all these activities, to have to pay for everything that goes along with it. So now my focus is on helping folks to deal with stress and finding a way to diffuse that stress in a positive manner. One of the other things that I have learned is that it is okay. And I'm not just saying that because I changed. It's okay if you're on your journey and you want to make a change to see where it goes. I think that's okay. You should have the right to make that change. I should say for the positive, for yourself, and not worry about what somebody, Sally, Dick, and Jane, gonna think about what you're doing. My mom had some sayings. If somebody rattled off at the mouth about what she was doing, most times how much of it did you pay for? How much came out of your pocket? And 9 times out of 10, that was enough for folk mind their business. Sometimes we're always taught you got to give. But sometimes, a majority of the time, you and I need that outlet to be able to do what's best for us. Now, don't get me wrong, you got responsibilities. And especially as parents or someone who may be responsible for someone else other than themselves, that's a whole different something else to a degree. But there are times when you need to schedule time, take time for yourself. It doesn't have to be a whole lot of, it doesn't have to be something expensive. If you can just get to a place that's peace and quiet, where your mind can rest. My favorite thing used to be to listen to music. All my life, I've always loved music. All kinds of music, from the R&B. I listen to opera, classical, even country, and then some. Now, most of the hip hop stuff, that's not my cup of tea. I'm not there telling somebody else they can't. It depends on what the message is. And that's with a whole lot of other things. It's not always about the messenger. Don't be so focused on the messenger that you miss the message. Anyway, let me go back where I was. But you need to have an outlet. I love music. I love to read. Before there was a such thing as in the iPad, in the Kindle, and whatever whatever the rest of that stuff is. There's nothing like having a refreshing drink, a book, and quietness. You can go anywhere you want to go in the universe in the pages of a book, the right book. It's gotten to where, and don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking audiobooks. They got their place. But there's nothing like having a book to hold in your hand and take your time and flip through the pages and read. I miss that. I don't get to do it as often as I'd like to. And I have books. Some I have not even read that I was planning on reading after I retired. But I've been doing other stuff. And I may have 2 or 3 that I'm reading at one time. While I'm talking, let me put this over here. While I'm talking about these, some people have their whole lives on this right here. Back in the day when we had telephones that were in the house, we did write it down, but most of the time we knew everybody's number by heart. When you dial them up, whatever. But the sad part is now, I can't tell you my husband's entire number, my sons, my grandchildren. They're either written down or they're in the phone. The books. Somebody is, while you on your way to wherever it is you going, somebody is reading the book to you with the audible books. Instead of having I still have mine, but I'm just saying some other folk. Instead of having a notebook or a place to write things down, they've taught us that it's more secure in the cloud. My thing is this. If for whatever reason that the cloud is no longer, or it gets a glitch, or for whatever reason, are you able to access the things that you need? If it goes down, you got all your pictures of your loved ones and your celebrations of life and things that are important to you. They're on here. What happens if you don't have access to that? Go on now. What happens? What do you do? I know there are people, your music, oh my gosh, the music, especially people like me who love our music. Okay, I've been through the CDs. No, wait. We had 8-track. I'm telling my age now, but I ain't mad. We had 8-track. Oh my God, really? Y'all. 8-track. I love my neighbors. Cassette. And then CDs. Now, then you got your, what is it? Now, MP3s. And then everything wound up being in the cloud. Okay. So again, what I want to know is, what do you do if the cloud, oh my God, y'all, if the cloud has a glitch, where's your music? You download music, but you don't have hard copies of what you like. What you gonna do? Y'all, I'm gonna have to stop for a minute before I have to cuss. I'll be right back. Okay, we back for a minute. When he gets ready to leave, we'll be, maybe I'll be almost done. But well, I'll never get done, but maybe it'll be better. Talking about the music and books and all these things that you may enjoy that are digital. What you gonna do if something happens and you don't have that access? What kind of things do you have, those of you who have children or grandchildren or young people in your life? Do you have something else that you can share or do with them that has nothing to do with electronics? And I know this age, the one before it, that's all they know, pretty much. Do you realize what a problem that would be when you know what hits the fan? Because at some point, things are bound to happen with the way this weather is going. Wink, wink. Even here, over the years, this past year and a half, where I live in the Carolinas, we've been having earthquakes. What the heck? I'm not close to the area that's having them, but it's not that far from me. And it does affect some of my loved ones who live in that area. But I'm just saying, if something should happen to disrupt, what you gonna do? Now this is the other thing, y'all. I see people and heard people pushing uh, solar panels and alternative energy sources. All that's well and good as long as it can function the way it's supposed to. But what happens when you have, ouch, less, when you have less sunny days or having sun for enough time to keep your stuff charged up, okay? Solar panels, this is my opinion, allows you to continue life as you know it to a degree, depending on how your setup is. Depending on your setup. But again, the things that you want to plug up, like your computer and your telephone so you can talk to folks, got to have lights. Got to be able to cook or heat something up in the microwave. Some of the things that I've been telling you, you need to be able to learn how to make a fire. So if necessary, you can make a fire to cook or to keep yourself warm if necessary for a certain amount of time. You need to have candles. And they say, oh, don't use candles. It's a fire hazard. Just like anything else, it needs, you give it the respect. You give that fire that respect. You teach your children to respect that space and not jumping all over the place and maybe knocking over whatever or going to bed with them still on. That, all of those things that could happen. Because we have become, as a people, so soft, some folks would not be able to survive without the things, the electric, the electronic, the digital things that were given to us as conveniences. Again, that's where the convenience may come back to bite you in the, if you don't have an alternative source that's not connected to the system. That's all I'm gonna say about that part right now. I'm gonna go back. I just want you to be aware, because we are headed, if you look around and you're not got your head in the sand, we are headed for some times, as with all times that some of us could never imagine, because I never thought my generation would see some of the things that we're seeing now. Some of it good, some of it's not so good. A lot of it's not so good. All you have to do, all we have to do, use what was given to you. Common sense goes a long way. And there are so many who don't use it, don't have it. Some don't even have what the Lord promised the billy goat. Okay? If they do, they're not using it. We have been dumbed down so much. Myself, I stopped watching. I'm not saying don't, but I see things when I watch movies and I watch shows and things. It's hard not to look past the entertainment and not see the agenda behind it. Sometimes I have to watch it twice and be like, did I hear what I thought I heard, or did I see what I thought I saw? Again, I say so much of what was taught after a certain point in my life in the system, I found not to be credible. Some things I know, especially stuff that they push, that's being pushed now. And that's the thing about people who are my age and older. They don't want us to tell these stories. They try to whitewash things and say that they never existed or that never happened. Use a lie, because I was here when it happened. I saw it for my own eyes. I think we're the only folks who don't now reverence our elders as we should. Most cultures, the elders are listened to. Even back when, again, back in my day when I was younger, and people didn't have money to go to the doctor because the doctor wasn't a thing back then. There was always someone, and you always hear about the men. Oh, but baby, the women were the ones who took care of the sick. The women were the ones who taught the children. Before there was anything like, and they figured out that the dollars that could be made, it was, they did something for you. Someone was sick, they made a concoction, a poultice, a tonic to give to the person that was sick to help them. And in return, the person who was asking for the services gave the person who created, gave them something that had nothing to do with money. That was the payment. And even after the times of the doctors, a lot of times the real doctors who really cared about the patients before all this other skittles, they were often paid in food or whatever that that person had. It was not about money. But that's a whole different time. But folk need to wake up. And learn about some of these things that are no longer, or they're not in the open where most people can see. Because those are the things that you're going to need when there's no health care system, or it is maxed out. Okay, I'm going to leave that part alone too. I'm going to call it a night. Again, I don't know what order I'm going to put these videos in or how it's going. There's a lot to be said. And like I said, for the past few weeks, I've been jolted out of my sleep. I had to write things down. I've been keeping a notebook beside my bed because Spirit has been giving me things that that needs to be said. At least I believe it needs to be said. And I hope that it helps someone just in listening to my stories. I'm going to say bless you for the night. And peace and love to you. And I hope this video finds you well. Mind, body, and spirit. I hope you can glean something from the stories that I tell. And they're not just stories. This is real talk. I'm telling you things, or trying to tell you things that have really happened in my life. So, if you're interested, if you like this content, please leave me a comment below. If there's something in particular that you would like to hear me talk about, let me know that too in the comments. But until the next video, peace and love to you.